Welcome to the leg movement segment for Form 101. Running speed is ultimately a function of stride length and stride rate. This segment focuses on the elements of leg movement that can lengthen the running stride and increase turnover for faster running. Many of these elements are also important for comfortable and injury-free running. Keep in mind, the components of a longer and faster stride will be exaggerated when sprinting as compared to distance running. Distance runners still want to develop the capacity to run faster, but they need to balance speed with endurance. The best way to safely increase stride length and stride rate is by focusing on specific elements of the stride. Here are 10 essentials of leg movement to teach your runners. Then check out the activity segments in a running start for exercises that will help runners incorporate these essentials into their stride. First, runners should take off and land on either the midfoot or the forefoot, also known as the ball of the foot. Many runners land either flat-footed or on their heels. Both these actions direct force down into the ground without generating much pushback to propel the body forward. Notice that this adjustment, to running way up on the tiptoes, is different from running on the balls of the feet. It's also inefficient, as the runner can't generate enough force to propel himself forward. The next essential of leg movement, and a closely related one, is to run lightly on one's feet. Runners should avoid pounding or plodding. Plodding wastes too much energy and doesn't take advantage of the elastic energy stored in the muscles. Pounding decreases one's speed and also strains the bones and joints. These are flaws you can sometimes diagnose by listening to foot strike. Instead, runners should be light on their feet, almost springy, and as quiet as possible. The third essential is to land with the foot and knee pointed in the direction that the body is traveling, so that all the energy and force generated can propel the body where it wants to go. When the feet or knees point inward or outward, this steers some of the energy in the wrong direction. Fourth, avoid leg collapse, which is the sinking of the hips during the transitions of the running stride. It's particularly common among younger runners. To diagnose it, keep an eye on your runners' heads and hips. Both should stay relatively level over the course of their stride. If they bob up and down, your runners are expending more energy than necessary, and you should help them make the correction. Also, watch for excessive bending at the knee joints immediately after the runner's foot hits the ground. The root causes of this sinking are weak hamstrings and quads, and poor neuromuscular development. Drills that focus on quick and powerful jumping, such as high skips, are a good way to avoid leg collapse. You can also instruct your runners to stiffen their leg joints upon foot strike, as demonstrated here. The fifth essential is to make sure the feet are moving backwards as they land. Avoid scuffing the feet or having passive landings. Instead, runners should actively paw the ground and quickly push off with each step. Sixth, extend the ankle, knee, and hip joints upon takeoff. This generates force to propel the body upward and forward, increasing stride length. Here, the extension of the ankle, knee, and hip joints is insufficient. The ideal extension will vary with running speed. As seen here, the extension will be somewhat less powerful when running long distances than when sprinting. Seventh, lift the foot up toward the butt quickly after pushing off the ground. Bringing the foot to the butt closes the angle behind the knee, allowing the leg to swing forward more rapidly. The leg swings forward inefficiently when the angle behind the knee is wide open. As shown here, when running speed increases, the runner's foot should rise higher toward the butt. After pushing off, the foot necessarily trails behind the body, but runners want to reverse the backward swing and bring the foot toward the butt quickly. Otherwise, the leg trails too far behind the body, which slows the running stride. The eighth essential is to drive the knees forward and upward as the legs swing forward. This is also known as knee lift, a concept that's often misunderstood. What it doesn't mean is lifting the knees straight up. That leads to a bouncy up and down motion, which wastes energy. Instead, ideal knee lift feels more like driving the knee forward. Notice here how there's not enough knee lift. This is good knee lift for running long distances. As running speed increases, lift the knee higher. While excessive for distance running, this is just right for sprinting. But even sprinters can lift their knees too high, as we see here. The ninth essential is to dorsiflex the ankle as the leg swings forward and prepares to land. This means pulling the toes toward the shins. This dorsiflexing leads to both a longer stride and faster turnover. Here's an example of foot strike when the toes are not pulled toward the shins. Notice how the angle here between shin and foot is wide. The toes also point downward. When the foot is under the knee, as seen here, the foot should be parallel to the ground. This stretches the calf muscles and the Achilles tendon, preparing them for maximum contraction quickly upon landing. And finally, choose a stride length that feels natural and comfortable. Ideally, a runner's foot should land directly beneath the body, or as close to it as possible. Avoid understriding. Short strides are unhelpful because they don't take full advantage of the power generated by each step. And avoid overstriding, in which the foot lands well in front of the hips and center of mass. Although a longer stride leads to faster running, the expanded stride must still be within the runner's range to be beneficial. Also important is the way runners lengthen their stride. Ask the average inexperienced runner to lengthen his or her stride, and you'll likely see a leg kicked out at the knee or stretched farther out in front of the body. The problem is that this will result in overstriding and will often cause runners to land on their heels, which is both inefficient and can risk injury. Instead, runners should lengthen their strides by developing the 9 other essentials of leg movement featured here. This will ensure that runners efficiently propel themselves further with each step, rather than just taking longer steps. That covers leg movements. Here are some reminders, and be sure to check out our other Form 101 segments.